I think now we have a team that can play and can match and defend. And I just thought the role players, as you mentioned, smart, coming down, hitting some big shots, bringing his presence. Hayes stepping in for Ayton with his energy, his rebounding. I just thought collectively and getting the job done.
Steven Adams stands 6'11" and weighs 265 pounds while looking like he walked straight off the set of a martial arts movie. And Jimmy Butler said getting hit by one of his screens made him feel like his life was over because Adams is strong, like he's from Krypton. And Zion Williamson, who came into the league built like a tank, admitted he thought he was strong until he saw Adams up close. And wait until we see the exact moment Adams picked up a 6'10", 240-pound center and carried him backward like he was lifting a bag of groceries. Steven Adams is the New Zealander many people see as the quiet star of the NBA. And at 32 years old, he's built like a real-life action movie villain who moves like the final boss nobody wants to cross, which somehow makes him even more iconic across the league. This man is basically Aquaman acting as the full-time bodyguard for every teammate during heated moments, because whenever Adams steps toward an opposing player, everything shifts instantly. And once he puts those heavy hands on someone, people instantly cool off, breathe, and decide it's smarter to chill out instead of pushing things any further. Adams is now in his 9th NBA season, but his presence feels like he's been holding down the paint for 15 plus years as a steady center and tough role player, putting up around 9 points and 8 rebounds. But everyone knows he's the enforcer who makes sure nobody messes with his squad while earning over $111 million. Even though he looks intimidating, the stories about him tell a totally different side, so we need to answer 2 specific questions. First, what makes Adams' strength so legendary that all-stars publicly praise him? And second, how does his combination of power and personality make him the most respected enforcer in basketball? Paul George shared what he first thought about Big Steven before they became teammates, and why judging him by his looks is a huge mistake, because PG said going against Adams, he thought he was some cocky, arrogant dude who always wanted to start trouble. And he assumed Adams was one of those bigs that wanted problems at every opportunity. But when George got to Oklahoma City, the truth became obvious, because Adams is actually a great dude, an incredible teammate, and pretty funny. And while he does want those problems down in the paint that comes from him being an extremely physical player rather than being intentionally aggressive, always seen as the gentle giant who shuts down drama before it explodes, Adams has this lovable aura, even though he barely talks in public because he isn't the loud type at all, super reserved and quiet, and he hasn't even tweeted since last summer. Born in Rotorua, New Zealand, he grew up in a huge family with 17 siblings, and even as the youngest, he was already towering over everyone with that wild size, and his people knew he had something rare, so they pushed him to chase basketball early on. Born July 20th, 1993, Adams came from a family where height was basically normal because his brother stood around 6'9" and his sisters were around 6 feet tall, but young Steven didn't have a smooth childhood since his older brothers used to mess with him so much it brought him to tears. Everything changed when his father stepped in, a serious 6'11" presence who was already in his 60s when Steven was born and sadly passed away when Steven was 13, a loss that hit him extremely hard. And after that, Steven drifted away from school and started hanging with members of the local mongrel mob gang, but thankfully never joined. His older brother Warren, who played for the New Zealand national team, stepped in and convinced him to focus on basketball instead. And by age 15, he was already 6'5" and instantly fell in love with the grind while becoming obsessed with improving. Adams eventually made his way to the States and landed at Pittsburgh thanks to coach Jamie Dixon, who had New Zealand connections. And even when he reached the NBA, he never acted starstruck because he honestly didn't know most of the players since making the league was never some childhood dream for him. The strongest athlete in the Adams family isn't even him, because his sister, Valerie Adams, is already legendary as an Olympic gold medal shot put champion for New Zealand while standing 6'4" and weighing 265 pounds as an absolute powerhouse. After 1 year of college ball, averaging 7 points and 6 rebounds, scouts saw this massive, raw, powerful frame, and OKC grabbed him 12th overall. And he came in as part of the James Harden trade package while starting off as a reserve big. Even then, MVP teammate Kevin Durant had something memorable to say about the 20-year-old Adams when he said, "Big Kiwi, I didn't know who you were when you first got here, but you made me realize with the screens you set in practice and the elbows when I come down the lane, you let your presence be known. And you're such a fun-spirited person." As Adams kept that short-haired look, his game leveled up season after season until 2019, turning him into the perfect role player who never forces anything and always knows exactly where he fits. Because he doesn't chase extra highlights, he just handles his job, grabs boards, and makes life easier for his teammates every single night. The stories about his toughness just keep stacking up, because during During his Thunder days, assistant coaches would sneak up on him out of nowhere and hit him with a sudden uppercut to the stomach while he was focused on drills, testing how much he could handle without flinching. His career free throw percentage sits around 55%, but that didn't stop him from grinding nonstop. And even Kendrick Perkins jumped in with his own crazy Steven Adams story about how he goes hunting for wild hogs in New Zealand with just a knife and no shoes on. Jimmy Butler, known as one of the most intense and competitive players in the entire league, had his share of wild moments during his Timberwolves run. And even in the middle of telling a totally different story, he suddenly shifted the conversation to Steven Adams because the man's strength was just that unforgettable. Butler straight up went off topic and started talking about how unbelievable Adams's power was, describing it in a way that made everyone realize he wasn't exaggerating when he said, "He hit me with one screen today and I thought my life was over. He's like from Krypton or something, seriously. He's strong." For a full-blown all-star like Jimmy Butler to publicly hype up Steven Adams, that says everything, because Butler doesn't hand out compliments to opponents unless he truly means it. And honestly, Butler should feel lucky he never ended up in a moment like Patrick Beverley back in the 2017 playoffs. Beverley got hit with that heavy collision while letting out that loud scream, and the whole scorers table reacted like they had just witnessed something shocking, with their jaws dropping instantly. And Beverley, known for being a gritty blue-collar guard who plays with nonstop intensity, tried to act like the pain didn't bother him. Then you look at the play with Chris Middleton, where Adams just tossed him aside like, "Get off me," and kept moving like it was nothing. Or that wild poster he put on LeBron that plenty of people still haven't seen, even today. There was the heated moment involving Chris Dunn and Russell Westbrook where things got tense fast. But Adams stepped in and pushed Dunn back calmly, shutting everything down with just his presence. And later, Jeremy Grant and Robin Lopez got into it. And once again, Adams walked right over and cooled down another man his own size without raising his voice. Players across the league knew not to test him because he's easy to play with, loyal, and barely argues with referees. And even early in his career, during one of his first games, two smaller Dallas players went at him, and Vince Carter caught him with an elbow, but Adams didn't even react. Then there was that moment with DeMarcus Cousins where Boogie snapped for a second and stepped up like he was about to swing, but at the last second he stopped himself because if they had actually fought, it might have gone down as one of the worst moments of Cousins' career, since challenging Adams physically is never a smart move. Adams just stood there totally unfazed without even blinking, and other players can come at him full speed and it still looks like they bounce off a wall, because people joke that Adams probably lifts teammates in the weight room instead of normal weights, and honestly it wouldn't be surprising. Chris Paul even spun around ready to get in someone's face, but the second he realized Adams was the one behind him, he acted like the whole moment didn't exist and moved on instantly. And little 5'9" Isaiah Thomas once ran straight into Adams without seeing him and dropped in clear pain because Adams is basically a walking brick wall. During the 2018 playoffs against the Jazz, there was another intense moment when Jay Crowder squared up with Carmelo Anthony, but Adams stepped in, and the way he moved the 6'6" Crowder with almost zero effort looked absolutely unreal. Even rookie Zion, who came into the league with massive hype and endless attention, had something interesting to say about Adams when he admitted, "Man, Steven is strong. I thought I was strong, but seeing it up close like on the same team now, it's crazy. Steven is really strong." Everyone already knows Zion is built like a tank, so when he praises someone else's strength, that hits completely different, because for Zion to hype up a teammate like that is wild, since the league expected him to come in physically dominant and unstoppable inside. In a recent fourth quarter against the Bulls, Jay Morant and Tony Bradley got tangled up, and even though Jay stood up to the 6'10", 248-pound center, Adams appeared right on cue, and without even straining, he picked Bradley up off the floor and carried him backward like it was nothing, because the moment Adams wrapped him up, the whole scuffle ended instantly. Steven Adams evolved from a clean-cut rookie to rocking long hair and tattoos while creating a style that perfectly fits his massive frame, and his image now matches his game so well it feels like a brand he was born to carry, because former teammate Jaren Jackson Jr., who's 6'11" and 240 pounds, said Adams has picked him up before and admitted, "You feel like you're 7, you feel helpless a little bit," which is wild coming from someone that big. Now here's the real question I'm asking you. Is Steven Adams the strongest player in NBA history when you consider that all-stars like Butler, Zion, and Duncan Robinson all say he's on a completely different level, or are there other players from past eras who could match his strength? Drop your answer in the comments, because this defines how we measure pure physical dominance versus skill. If you think Steven Adams is the strongest human human being to ever play basketball. Hit that like button, subscribe, because we're breaking down the most unique players in NBA history. Catch you in the next one. Peace.